It's such a pleasure for me to be here with you. I was born upon the ashes of the Holocaust. My father lost his entire family. His father, his mother, his grandparents, brothers, sisters. My father really was the only one who remained. And through the grace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, my mother survived, along with her two brothers, and my Zaidi and my Bubby, Mama and Zayda. When my grandparents came to this country, my Zayda, with his long white beard and his black coat and his black hat, would walk around the streets of New York City, East New York, where they lived, and children pointed to him and they would laugh and say, "Look, Santa Claus in August," because they'd never seen a rabbi looking like this before. Growing up, I understood that we have a choice in life, and the choice is this: when you go through darkness and you go through difficulty, you can either get very angry, you can be disappointed, you can be depressed, you can get sad, and you can say, "Hashem, why me? It's not fair. Why me?" Or you can decide to kindle a light and to bring light where there is darkness. So my Zaidi and my Bubby started a yeshiva day school. My parents moved into a neighborhood where we were the only frum kids around. Shabbos was filled, our table, bringing other people into our homes who had never experienced Shabbos before. And instead of cursing the darkness, I grew up seeing light. In 1973, my mother began an organization called Hineni, where my mother spoke in Madison Square Garden for thousands and thousands. That was a Jewish revolution. I was there, I was a little girl, I will never forget it. For the past 25 years, I was teaching the couples of Hineni, watching them raise their children. I began teaching 4 couples in a living room in New York City. They asked me, "What does the Torah have to say about raising children? Is there something that you can teach us?" And we spoke about sibling rivalry, we spoke about happiness, we spoke about gratitude, we spoke about every single facet of parenting, because everything's in the Torah. From these classes came an explosion. And Baruch Hashem, today I give classes to those first couples, but it has grown into communities around New York, Westchester, Long Island, like we said. And I've traveled all over the world with parenting workshops based on my book, Raising a Child with Soul. What I've discovered is this: it doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't matter if it's South America, it doesn't matter if it's South Florida, it doesn't matter if the community is religious and frum or totally not. We have very similar issues, and here we go. First of all, our kids are growing up with experiences that, as kids, we could only dream of. Our children have gone jeeping in the deserts of Israel. They've gone traveling all over the world or all over America. They've gone swimming with dolphins. And yet, I have never met so many unhappy kids. Did you ever go to Disney for a day? Did you ever see so many miserable families around? I mean, if you can't be happy in Disney, where are you going to be happy? And you just hear everyone say, "You are never, we are never, that's it, we're going back." Why all the unhappiness? Our children have more than we have ever dreamed of having. They have American Girl dolls, they have pools, they have foosballs, they have I've been in homes with rock climbing walls. They have all kinds of toys and games and computers and collections. But how often do children come up and say to you, "I'm bored. There's nothing to eat in this house. I have nothing to do." What's happening? We have the ability to communicate to people all over the world. You get on your WhatsApp, you reach somebody across in Eretz Yisrael in a second. And yet, we are living in a world of miscommunication and disconnect. I've been in homes with families where mothers have to text their children, "Supper is ready." And a child texts back, "I'm not ready yet." When fathers come home at the end of the day, the Wall Street Journal calls it the dead zone, because we are just so busy that we don't have time to talk to each other. And we've lost the ability to look into each other's eyes and communicate. I was out with my husband the other day. We're in a restaurant. My husband said to me, "Look around this room. What do you see?" And I look around. Do you know what I see? I see every single couple, each on their own phone. And sometimes you have toddlers, and they're also just scrolling back and forth. So we live in a world where everybody has their device, and yet we are living in a world of disconnect. And the chutzpah is incredible. The sense of entitlement. You owe me. I spoke to a principal the other day. He told me that there's a rule in school that you are not allowed to order out. So the 8th graders decided they'd be very bright and smart, and what do? They order sushi, and they thought they could sneak it in. But the principal found out, and he took it away. Towards the end of the day, there's a knock at the door. A group of students come, and they say, "We'd like to speak to you, Rebbe." He says, they're coming to say, "I'm sorry." They come in and they say, "You owe us money because you took our sushi away." One of the advantages of giving parenting talks is that wherever I go, I always get to hear a good story, especially when I'm in the aisle of my local supermarket. So the other day, a Mora tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "I have a good one for you." She said it was cookie and milk time, and one of the little girls came over to me and said, "Mora, I need more milk." And I said to her, "Sweetie, you forgot a word. Now." So I did not come here today to speak to you about manners. I came here today to speak to you about the neshama, the soul of our children. I came here to speak to you today about character. Every Leil Shabbos, we close our eyes and we say, "Ribono shel olam, Master of this universe, Zakeni l'gadel banim, privilege me to raise children, because it's a privilege to raise a child." And what kind of children? Chachamim unevonim, Ohevei Hashem, Yirei Elokim, Anshe Emes. Hashem, please. And when I was a little girl, I would watch my own mother, and she would bench licht, and always when she would cover her eyes, there'd be tears. Because the tears of a mommy who benches licht goes into the heart, breaks barriers. Ribono shel olam, help me. Help me raise a child who will be filled with emes, whether I'm in the room or not, kind and sensitive. Zera Kodesh, that this child will always feel that they come from Kedusha, that they come from sanctity. So how do we do this? You see, I can go into any bookstore, or I can go onto Amazon, and every year there will be another slew of self-help books or parenting books. And then my question to you is, if they work, why do I need new ones? So years ago, there was the method of letting a child cry themselves to sleep, and you go in and it's 10 minutes and 7 minutes and 8 minutes and 5 minutes. But then came the book recently, Did You Let Your Child Cry Themselves to Sleep? Because if you did, now there are emotional issues, and there's a whole new book to deal with that. Where do we find the solution? I look into the Torah. Hafochba, hafochba, dekulaba. Turn the pages, everything is here. the wisdom, the chachma of Torah is immutable. And this is how I grew up with the Messiah, the legacy of my parents, of my grandparents, of my great-grandparents, all the way back to David HaMelech. And I'd like to share with you a little taste of what I was able to glean and to give over in my classes tonight. A little smorgasbord. So where do we begin? We want to raise children with good character. Where do you begin? When you buy a home, one of the first things that you have to look at is you must look at the foundation of the home. You can have the most beautiful home, you could have the most incredible architect, but if the foundation of the home is cracked, that home, no matter how beautiful that home is, the home will not stand. And so in every family, the spiritual foundation of every home must not have a crack, it must stand. And do you know what the spiritual foundation of every home must be? Number one, hakaras hatov, an attitude of gratitude. Because if I have an attitude of gratitude, if I raise children with hakaras hatov, with an attitude of gratitude, these children appreciate what they have. They value what they have. They respect what they have. Mommy, I appreciate you, so I respect you. I'm thankful for you. Tati, Abba, I'm so grateful to you. Of course I speak then with derech eretz. If I appreciate the things that I have, then I take care of my things, I respect my things, and it's a whole different environment. But what's the problem? Why do we have children today who have such a lack of hakaras hatov, this attitude of gratitude, of appreciation? I saw the problem years ago. I saw the beginnings of it. My daughter had a crafts party locally in Cedarhurst, near where I live. At the end of the birthday party, all the little girls left. I'm about to leave, and I see in the back hooks on the wall, and there were a bunch of jackets and coats left. So I say to the owner, I guess I'm going to wait here, until all the parents come back and they get the coats. Oh no, he says, nobody's coming back. I said, what do you mean nobody's coming back? He said, I have a bag in my basement that you would not believe. Nobody comes back. And I realized then that we live in a disposable society. How often does a child lose a hat, a mitt, a glove, a jacket, a sweatshirt? Did you ever look at the lost and found in a school at the end of the year? You could clothe a village in Africa. Did you ever see kids coming to a bus stop with a trunk, and you need 5 people to schlep the trunk? What happens at the end of the summer? With a pinky, it comes home. What happened to all the stuff? What happened to all the packages that we send every single week? Where is all the stuff? Because we keep on buying, and we keep on giving, and we keep on replacing, and we just don't want to hear the kvetching. And so our children stop appreciating. They stop appreciating things. They stop appreciating people in their lives. They stop saying thank you because we feel as if it's entitled. Did you ever do a carpool? How many children leave and really look at you and say, thank you? What about when you're in a restaurant and there's a waiter or a server, or you're on a plane and your kids are being served Coke or Sprite or water? How many children say thank you? Look at a person in the eye and say, thank you. Or just take it. I want more. I need ice. I don't want this one. Now I'm going to ask you something, and think about this for a moment. Is a thank you so connected to a child's character? It's so easy to just say thank you. Every single morning, we wake up, and what are the first words that we are supposed to say? Modeh ani, which means thank you. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you for my life, for my neshama. Rabba emunasecha. Great is your belief in me. Thank you, Hashem. But modeh ani does not only mean thank you. Modeh also means ani, modeh ani, I admit. Modeh ani, I admit. What is the connection between saying thank you and I admit? Listen carefully. If I thank you, I must admit something. Do you know what I have to admit? I need you. Thank you. Thank you, Mommy. I need you. Thank you, Daddy. I need you. And to need somebody is very humbling. That's why it is so hard for us to say thank you when somebody does something for us. It's humbling. It's anivos. We learn how to appreciate and how to stop being so entitled. So the next time you say to a child, do you want to go for sneakers? And you hear, fine. Would you like some pizza, honey? Whatever. It's not fine. And it's not whatever. Thank you, Mommy. Thank you, Daddy. Should I take you to school now? Whatever. It's not whatever. Thank you. And this one I love. Mommy, you owe me $20. I owe you $20. How can I possibly owe you anything? I gave life to you. But we're busy with this. You know what? You're right. I'm going to get some change. I owe you? Hakaras hatov, an attitude of gratitude. It's life-changing. So how do we teach this to our children practically? How do we teach them the humility? How do we teach them to stop being entitled, to stop coming home and saying, ugh, supper's not ready yet? Ugh, chicken on the bone? You know I don't like that. Ugh. Where's the attitude of gratitude? Ugh, I have that already. How do we teach this? 3 practical ways. Number 1, to teach our children to appreciate the people that we take in life for granted. The people that you and I and our children take in life for granted. And we learned this from Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe Rabbeinu came back to Mitzrayim, he came back to Egypt, and it was time for the Makkos. Hashem said, you cannot do the Makkah, the first Makkah of Dam. Why? Because the Nilus saved your life. So you cannot come and hit the Nilus. And I'm going to ask you something. The Nilus, the Nile River, doesn't even feel. Who cares? Who cares if it's Moshe or Aaron? And the Nilus, the Nile, is flowing anyway. It didn't go out of its way. The Nilus protected and saved Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe now has to have hakaras hatov, an attitude of gratitude for a body of water. Hashem doesn't care about the feelings of the Nilus. Hashem cares about the character and attitude of Moshe Rabbeinu. And here is the attitude that we must bring home to our children and our children's children. Yes, the Nilus is supposed to flow, and the bus driver is supposed to drive, and the teacher is supposed to teach, and the server and the waiter are supposed to serve, and mommy is supposed to give you a delicious dinner and do math homework with you, and Abba and Tati is supposed to sit and do homework with you and drive carpool with you and play ball with you. But that, my child, does not mean that you do not have a right, a responsibility, and an obligation to say thank you. Thank you to the Mora, thank you to the teacher, thank you to the bus driver, thank you to Bubby and to Zaidi and to Mommy and Daddy. That becomes our obligation, our responsibility. That's number 1. Not to take people for granted. The people that we think have to do this anyway. The people that we just walk by. Number 2, to teach our children to appreciate time. Time is so precious. You can have kids sitting on their phone for hours. You can have teenagers getting together today, and they just get together like this. They're just looking at their phones. And we've stopped connecting and appreciating time together. I want to tell you something. When I was a little girl and growing up, every Motzei Shabbos, my family would have a get-together. We weren't a big family, because as I told you, my father lost his entire mishpacha. With just a few cousins. And every Motzei Shabbos, it was the same thing. The kids would be running, and then my Zaidi would come to the head of the table, and he would give a clap, and we would be quiet, and we would come close, and then my Zaidi would say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shehachayanu v'kiyimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Thank you, Hashem, for bringing me to this time. Then, every Motzei Shabbos, my Zaidi would cry. I remember being a teenager and thinking to myself, I don't get it. Like, why is my Zaidi crying? It's just a bunch of cousins. But I have to tell you this, my friends. Now that I am, Baruch Hashem, a mommy and a bubby myself, oh, how I understand my Zaidi's tears. Time goes so quickly, and it seems as if it was just yesterday that I was sitting at my kitchen table with my children. Would I ever have imagined for one moment that I would be walking my children down the chuppah, and my father and my mother's place would be empty? What I would not give for one more kiss, for one more dance, one more mitzvah dance, one more bracha, one more word, one more Leil Shabbos to just sit, just for a moment, with my mother and my father. Time goes so quickly. We have to teach our children that to be in a family is privilege. Time together is a privilege. And finally, when it comes to hakaras hatov, to an attitude of gratitude, our children learn from us. And so when parents give an attitude of gratitude to one another, this is how our children learn. I have sat with couples who were married for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and their children never hear them say to each other with time going, thank you. I have to share something. Every Friday night, my husband gives me a gift. Do you know what that gift is? It doesn't matter if there's company or just us at the Shabbos table. When we finish our Shabbos, my husband says, thank you for Shabbos. And let me ask you something. Would I not do the Shabbos? Can I ever say, you know what, guys? I was tired today. Peanut butter and jelly for everybody. It's not happening. You and I know that it's not happening. But that doesn't mean that just because I do it, you don't have a responsibility to say thank you. And when I have the privilege to go on a trip or a vacation, I always make a point to say to my husband, thank you, and he to me, to recognize each other's efforts. The next time you take a child out for shoes or for Yantiv clothing, do something good with your phone. Take it out and say, let's call Abba, and let's say thank you. To open up a child's eyes, this isn't just automatic. We don't go away every Hanukkah. We don't get clothing just like that. You don't buy sneakers just like that. We don't go out to eat or get sushi just like that. Say thank you. It is humbling. And you slowly watch the arrogance go away. So that's number one. hakaras hatov, an attitude of gratitude. The second midah that I'd like us to speak about today is chesed. Of course, we all want to raise children who are kind and sensitive. Let me ask you something, and answer this in your head. When was the last time your child really felt for the pain of another? I don't mean his best friend. I don't mean her best friend. Just another kid that they have nothing to do with. Another human being. To really feel, to be sensitive to the pain of another. Chesed. To love another. Again, we go back to the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is growing up in the palace of Paro. He has everything. He also has a choice. I can either stay in this palace, I can have everything I ever desire, or I can go out and I can feel pain. Vayigdal, and Moshe grew. Vayetzi, and he went out. Vayar b'sivlosam, and he sees the pain of Am Yisrael. Vayigdal, and he grew. And Rashi says something so beautiful. Moshe Rabbeinu, why does it say Vayigdal twice? Because the first time when Moshe Rabbeinu was growing up in the palace of Paro, Vayigdal, he was growing in inches, he was growing in size, he was growing in years. But the moment that he decided to go out into Mitzrayim and see another person's pain, and that was his choice, Vayigdal, he became great. This is called godless. You and I, we want to raise great kids. Godless. Then let's teach our children to feel the pain of another. I learned this from my own child. When my daughter was just 5 years old in preschool, we were new in my community. I didn't know anybody. So what do? You make a play date. I asked the teacher for a list of all the kids in school. We went down the list and I said to her, Shendela, who would you like to invite? I'm going to make friends. So we go down the list, and she says, Sarah Leah. So great. I call Sarah Leah's mommy. We make up a play date for the next day. Next day, I go out to greet the minibus. It comes up the driveway. Bus monitor comes down. My daughter comes down. Bus monitor looks at me, and she says, good luck. I said, good luck? Who says good luck for a play date? Out comes this little girl. She's sucking her thumb. She's half the size of my daughter. And for the next hour and a half, this little tiny girl is just sucking her thumb and holding on to my daughter's skirt. And like this, they walk through the entire house, hour and a half. And then her father comes to pick her up. I bring my daughter into the kitchen after, and I say, Shendela, is Sarah Leah your friend? And she says to me, no, Mommy, Sarah Leah, she has no friends. So I look at her, I say, but we wanted a play date. Do you play with Sarah Leah in school, Cookie? No, Mommy, Sarah Leah, she looks down, she doesn't play. So I don't understand, sweetie. Why did you invite Sarah Leah? I will never forget her response. Oh, Mommy, this little girl says. Every day Maura calls out names. Who is supposed to line up with who? Who is going to whose house? And every day Sarah Leah cries because Mommy, Maura never calls her name. I just didn't want her to cry anymore, Mommy. I just didn't want her to cry. That is godless. At the end of a lecture, a couple came over to me and said, you know, we have this amazing idea. Let's teach our children gratitude and chesed at the same time. Let's take kids on a trip to a place, like a country like Brazil, and we give out things like socks and jackets to homeless people. And then they learn to appreciate and they learn kindness. I said, my dear friends, you don't have to go to Brazil to teach a child chesed. Do you know where you have to look? In your child's own classroom. Every single week, I get calls and emails from parents about children who are not invited. Not invited to bas mitzvah parties, not invited to sleepovers, not invited to play. Kids who say, can I come? I have plans. I don't even know what that means. I have plans. What are your plans? Like the Oscars. I have plans. Where are you going? There isn't room for one more child. I had a mommy call me about her 12-year-old daughter. Every day when she sits down at lunch, the girls look at her and say, loser. And then they push themselves away from her. She doesn't want to get out of bed. In a yeshiva, a father called me about his son that nobody wanted to room with for the 12th grade graduation trip because his son stutters. Greatness? We think that we're raising great children if we go to a PTA and we hear Aleph plus, A plus, popular, great kid. But if that same child can use his mouth or her mouth to hurt another, then you and I are not being successful when it comes to raising children. That's not success. So what are we supposed to do? To teach our children to be a Moshe. Get out of your bubble. If you are lucky enough to have a child who is popular, who is great at sports, who is great at Chumash or math or social studies, who has a lot of friends, then teach your child, be like Moshe. When you're on that field and everybody's picking, and you're the captain of the team, look around, because there's a kid sitting right over there, standing right over there, and he's thinking to himself, please pick me, please pick me, don't let me be last again, please somebody pick me. You pick him. Maybe not first, maybe not second, but pick him. Because the gift that you have is a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're not great because you're great at sports. Hashem gave you a talent. If you have a daughter who's popular and she's going out to camp, tell your daughter, when you get on the bus and everybody's saying, sit here, save a bed next to me, save a bed next to you. And there is a girl in the back of that bus, and she is sitting all alone. Open your eyes and be a Moshe. And say, just easy, come sit here. Do you know what you're doing? You are giving life. You are making this world into a better place. And that is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to give to our children. That is called godless, to teach our children to feel godless. When I was a little girl, I told you my father was a Rav, my mother a Rebbitzin. So many stories would come our way. I remember there was one time that there was a child who was hurt from the shul. And my parents sat us down to say Tehillim. There was company over. And the company said to my mother, now really, Rebbitzin, soon your children are going to cry from this. I will never forget my mother's response. Some children cry for licorice. Others cry for chocolate or toys. My children will cry for the pain of another. When your child goes to sleep, choose one name to daven for, to be sensitive. Daven for Am Yisrael. That's how we teach our children to open our eyes, because our children are growing up in a world where they are taking pictures of themselves. It's a selfie generation. And when all you do is this a whole day and look at yourself, your eyes never go on anybody else. All you see is yourself. Children's phones are filled with pictures of themselves. And you don't know how to look at another person, how to relate to another person, how to look into another person's eyes. Chesed begins when we have chesed in our homes, when something spills, when something breaks, not to lose it, just to say, sweetie, it broke, it spilled, get some paper towels, clean it up. Instead of, what is the matter with you? I never can take you anywhere. The chesed that we want begins from our mouths. And finally, it comes now to priorities. To live with a sense of priorities in our lives. What really counts? What really gets you going? What really moves you? Because whatever moves me will move my children. If I love exercise, if I love to run, if I get up 5 a.m. to run, if I'm a foodie, if I love music, my children will know because I'm passionate about it. What are you passionate about? What do you give your energy for? How do you welcome a Shabbos? How do you welcome a Yantiv? How do you welcome guests? How do you welcome your in-laws? Whatever you are passionate about, whatever you love, your children come to love. A couple told me that the father came home at the end of a long day and their son was waiting by the door. He says to his father, Daddy, how much do you make an hour? And the father said, what are you talking about? How much? How much do you make an hour, Daddy? I'm not answering that. That's a crazy question. I'm not answering that. And the son was pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally the father and the mother lost it. They said, that is such a gross question. I don't know, $20, go to your room. And the little boy, he's crying and goes to his room, closes the door. Some time goes by, father and mother go to this little boy's room, and the boy's forehead is all sweaty, and he's sniffling his tears. And they say to him, what was that? What was that? What was that all about? The little boy opens his hand, his sweaty palm. He has a $20 crumpled bill. He says, Daddy, every day you come home, you never have time for me. I just wanted an hour of your time, Daddy. I just wanted an hour of your time. Priorities mean more presence, less presence. We don't have to keep on buying, but we do have to be there. Be there in body, in spirit, and mind. I gave a lecture to parents about technology. I got up, there's a room filled, I took my phone out, and I started to do this. And I hear a little buzz in the room. And I say, sorry, just a second, I just have to answer this email. And I hear this murmuring. Is she kidding? Who does she think she is? And I said to them, my phone is off. I want you to see how it feels. How does it feel? How does it feel to want to talk to somebody and all they do is this? It feels terrible. If you would go to a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher at PTA and they'd be looking at their phone, you would say, I'm done. How does it feel to try to talk to a husband, to a wife, for a child to try to speak to us, and we're like, I hear you, while we're texting? It makes me feel this big. More presence. That means not only that I'm there at the table, that I'm there in the room, but that I'm there with my eyes, with my ears, with my body, with my face. I know we're coming to the end of our time. So I'm trying to think what to leave you with. We said 45 minutes, and I know we have to get home to our children. So I'm going to leave you with this. Being a parent sometimes means that we think to ourselves, how many diapers have I changed? How many lunches have I made? How many math homeworks have I signed? How many balls have I thrown? How many noses have I wiped? How many tears? At the end of the day, what does it all mean? Nobody's recognizing me. Nobody's putting me up on Yahoo News. Look at this mother. She changed 3,400 diapers, right? She made, I don't know, 1 million suppers. So what does it mean to be a parent? When Am Yisrael was in Mitzrayim, and they were in such a terrible place of Choshech, there were 2 women that we know of, and their names were Yocheved and Miriam. They were the ones who saved Am Yisrael. They were the ones who delivered the babies, who defied Paro, who said, you can do this. But in the Torah, they were called what? Shifra and Pua. And why were they called these names? Shifra, Mishaperet et Havalad, because she would make the babies beautiful. Pua, because she would say, poo poo, whenever a baby would cry. I mean, really? If they were such heroines, shouldn't they be called Chaya for life, Bracha for blessing? Look what these women did. Shifra? Pua? That they make a baby beautiful? That they calm a baby down? Oh yes, you better believe it. Because when you have no more energy, and you are just done, and the women in Mitzrayim were done, they had no energy, they were exhausted, they were frightened, and then it comes time to bring a baby into this world. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I can't. So Shifra says, are you kidding me? Mishaperet et Havalad, she'd make the baby so beautiful. Look at this neshamala. Look at this beautiful baby. You are bringing the future of Am Yisrael into existence. This is beautiful. Pua, where mother would say, I'm so tired. You hear this screaming, crying kid. She, poo, poo, it's okay. It's okay. So when a child comes to you and you are so tired and you just want to lay in bed and that child says, Mommy, can I talk to you? You're like, oh, no. Mommy, can you read? Oh, no. I am so tired. Mommy, I forgot I have to do more. Oh, no. And it just comes out of your neshama. Shifra and Pua. These are the moments that nobody knows about, that nobody sees, that nobody recognizes, but you know, and I know, because this is the definition of being a mother, of being a parent, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu knows. I will end then with this story for you to take home. When my father was ill in Sloan Kettering, we had 9 weeks from the time that my father had his diagnosis till the time that we sadly said goodbye. My father was just the most beautiful father, as my mother was a mother. Every day by Modim, I say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for my parents. My daughter, who was then 10 years old, wanted to come to say goodbye. I said to her, Shendela, I don't think it's a good idea. Abba Zayda is very sick. We called my father not just Zayda, but Abba Zayda, because that's what he was. And I asked my mother said, of course she should come. I bring my daughter into the room. My father's bed is surrounded just by machines and beeps, and there's nothing, and my father's eyes are closed. My daughter comes nearby. She says, "Mommy, can I sing Abba Zeta a song?" I said, "Of course. What would you like to sing, Shendela?" Hamalach HaGoel. Because every night Abba Zeta used to sing that to me when he would come over. I want to sing for Abba Zeta. So her little voice filled the room. She began to sing Hamalach HaGoel. When she finished, the room was silent. All you heard were the beeps of the machines. My father's eyes were closed, and slowly, very slowly, with all his koach, I see one hand starting to raise, and then I see another, and I'm thinking to myself, what is my father doing? And that was the very last gesture that my father gave to us, to my child. That's parenting. To take from your omek lev and give beyond. That's parenting. I thank you all so much for being here and for listening, and I wish you all nachas, mazel, bracha, and to raise the most incredible homes filled with hakaras hatov, chesed, and priorities so we can bring the geula shlema b'mehera. Thank you so much.